Hey Hardin County, it's Michelle Labus, and I want to tell you about the Township meeting that we had last Thursday. That was on February 12th, 26, I believe. Yes. And Mike Bacon came in because, of course, we have all these changes with our property tax. So if you had listened to our school budget commission meeting that I just posted earlier, it will give you a lot of the basis for what's happening with the schools, which then affects the townships. And so Mike Bacon came in and gave a quick synopsis of it, and I did record it. I didn't record the school one. I got there a little late and wasn't able to set up, but so I did record it. So if you want to listen to Mike Bacon and what he has to say, that's a great opportunity to see that, and I really encourage you to do it because it is fairly complicated. But basically we have 5 bills from DeWine that are kind of messing with our property tax. We have a 10% rollback for non-business credit and a 2.5% rollback for owner-occupied. One of the bills says that it's going to basically switch it so over a 4-year period, so it's only an incremental shift, but they're going to get rid of the 10% rollback entirely for non-business properties, and then they're going to give I think it's going to end up being a 15% rollback for owner-occupied, so that excludes multi-properties and like renters and those kinds of things. And so they're trying to encourage single home owners to get a little bit of a discount. It's not huge. I mean, it's not going to be anything that's earth-shattering to get these rollbacks, but that's one of the things they're doing. The other thing they're doing with the schools is getting rid of their 20 mil floor, which gave them a minimum amount of funding. They're going to be able to go down below that, and then their funding is going to be based on inflationary growth from 22 to current. And so it's going to take out that big rise if you listen to the other video. But our schools got a $3.7 million levy increase just because the housing prices went so high. And so now the funding percentage, the ratio of that percentage went down below that 2%. And so they automatically, the law says it has to come up for that 2%. And then that's the gap that generated $3.7 million. Kenton alone got $1.1 million. Ada got $600,000 and so on. So anyway, so Mike relayed all this information, and then he also told the townships, because it's a big shift for them, is that the county budget commission now has all the authority. They are the auditor, prosecutor, and treasurer, and they get to say, they're gonna basically be your big brother and saying, hey, let me look at your budget. What are you saving this money for? Well, I'm saving this money for a truck, or I'm saving this money for these things. And they're gonna have to approve that and say, yep, okay, and you're putting money away. Now they're talking about like a 3-year time period, right? So you're going to be able to, kind of this adjustment where you say, all right, get your finances in order, look at what your spending is going to be. You're going to present it to the budget commission. They're going to look at it, and you're going to kind of have to make an account for what you're going to do in the next 3 years. Now, longer term spending, where you're like, hey, we need to save up for a new building in the next 20 years. Are they going to have special accounts for that? Or, how, there's a lot of things that you can tweak that they are going to have to kind of work through. But anyways, the budget commission is going to come in. So what they're going to be able to do is say, look, you've got an awful lot of money in savings. You don't need to be taxing your people, right? There's no reason to be taking money out of your people's pockets if you already have enough funding. And so they are going to reduce their levies. They're not going to get rid of them. You're not going to have to re-vote on them. They're just going to reduce them down to 0, which is going to give you relief on your taxes. And maybe that's only for a year or 2 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden it may come back on your taxes if they say, hey, look, we had to buy a vehicle or something happened, we need that revenue back, and it can go right back on again. So there may be some fluctuations in those type of things. And so they made this list. I'm going to put this up here. This list is all the township levies that that we have. So up here in the corner, we have kind of a summary of our county levies. And I'll hold this up here, see if you can see it. And you've got along the side all your different townships. And so some of them have like road and bridge funds that they can use to repair their roads and bridges. So like here, Dudley has a Kenton fund, Ridgemont, and Elgin that they have on there. And so they can go and look at those amounts, and so that's kind of a big deal to them. They're going to have to keep account. Now we do have some townships that do have a lot of money. So I think it's Cessna Township. Back in the day when they used to get state tax, right? Because that's another thing that got taken away is state tax. There was a farm that was sold that was had quite a lot of land, and they wrote a substantial check to the township because that's where it was supposed to go. And the township has pretty much been using that money ever since. And so do they need to be taxing their people if they have substantial funding? No, probably not. You may see townships start using that money, because if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. So anyways, it's something that they're going to have to work through to make that happen. What else? They talked about the inflationary tax credit that's on HB 186 that you're going to be seeing in the second half of the year. Now I do think taxes of first half is going to be one amount, and then your second half taxes are going to be totally different. They should be reduced. We don't really know how much. They're going to have this inflationary cap credit on it. But I do not think they're going to be made whole. I could be wrong, the townships. Now they're going to make whole the schools so that they don't lose any budget funding this year if there's a decrease. But I don't think that's going to happen with the townships. They're going to have to just kind of adjust for that. Yeah, so that's kind of it. Mike did talk about how between 22 and 23, we went from $660 million of revenue for our county to $880 million. So that's kind of the size that you're looking at is like, $200 million plus $200 million additional into our county. And so that's why we're all kind of feeling these issues. And the bad news is that we hit this at the very beginning in 23. We were like one of the first. So there's 3 areas of Ohio. It's kind of densely populated areas are evaluated on 1 year, and then moderately populated is the 2nd year, and then kind of rural area is the 3rd year, right? So when our reevaluation year came up, it was right at that 22-23 switch over. So we got hit hard. And then the next year and the next year, people. And so now people are really feeling it. Well, coming up in 27, that's going to be our next 3 year. That's our triannual update. So we were hit here 3 years ago. We're going to be hit hard again in 27 to the tune of upwards of 25% increase in your taxes. So you might want to keep that in mind. So the other things that talked about it, so we are talking about the township meeting, right? So this is all a big discussion. Mike Bacon put out the question of what are you going to do if the Abolish Property tax goes through? And so then there was ensuing a somewhat of a debate kind of question. I think people have a lot of questions. There's a lot, I felt, misinformation being spread about it. I don't know that people really know or understand it. And so there was kind of, if you're interested in that, you can go listen to it. But kind of a back and forth on property tax. And then Mark Dahl is doing land use reevaluation type thing. So he was asking for support with that. And now the end of the meeting, they had called for Joe and Tim. They were 2 county commissioners that were there, and Joe talked about the courthouse security and how everybody kind of understood why they're doing it, although I think it's having a little bit of trouble, which you would expect with such a change up of policy, and so they're having to work through all those things. And then Tim wanted to speak, and so he said, as outgoing commissioner, that he wanted to warn everybody to vote very wisely in this next upcoming election, and warned about the devastating effects of this property tax type of thing. And so he also said, which I thought was really interesting, is that some townships are looking to the county to pick up the bill, right? That if we fall into an emergency, is the county going to help us, get through this time period of adjustment? And according to Tim, and I'm assuming he's speaking for the other 2 commissioners, he said, not going to happen. Not going to happen. The county is not picking up any of your township bills. And so they need to be very, very careful about what they do and what they decide, which, if they're talking about abolish property tax, that's a whole state issue. That is not something that is can be solely bore on the back of Hardin County, for sure. And I do know that this is kind of the same talking points that other commissioners or other commissioners, townships have had. And so, maybe it's just a talking head parroting type of situation, but definitely concerned. I am concerned because our county is not going to help in an emergency situation, which seems kind of foolish to me. And how are they going to know anyways? Tim's not even going to be there. So anyways, that's the township meeting. Like I said, if you're interested in this stuff, go watch the video, and we'll talk to you later. All right, bye.